Hey, it's Shane with GotRom.com. In this video, you're going to learn about the 7 habits of often injured athletes. Stay tuned. Habit number 1 is ego. For recreational athletes, ego is the enemy. Trying to impress your friends and lifting too much weight is a surefire way to get hurt. It's also a good way to make your chiropractor or surgeon rich. As the old saying goes, pride goeth before the fall. For athletes, myself included, the fall usually meant an injury, or an injury that gets worse and worse over time if you don't get your ego in check. Don't get me wrong, for athletes that aspire to greatness, competition and drive is invaluable, but it's the competition and drive without intelligent restraint that leads to trouble. The best athletes that I know are highly competitive, but also highly self-aware. They know their own limits and they know when to put the brakes on. And this allows for enduring greatness or longevity. And I would assert that recreational athletes or weekend warriors should especially err on the side of longevity over temporary ego-driven glory. Because after all, let's be real for a second. If you were looking back 20 years from now, are you really going to remember that time where you totally kicked your friend's ass in CrossFit? Probably not. The harsh reality is you're more likely going to remember the permanent damage you did to your knees or back during that workout as you wince in pain while trying to tie your own shoes. The take-home message is push hard, but don't be stupid. Habit number 2 is short-sightedness. This habit is intimately connected with habit number 1. Ego makes you take stupid risks, and short-sightedness makes you forget the long-term goal. The long-term goal is to be a healthy, lifelong athlete. This bad habit is the proverbial missing the forest for the trees. What's more important? That you set a 30-pound personal record, a new PR with crappy form, but then you stall and stagnate for the next 6 months? Or that you lift a measly 2 more pounds every week and end up lifting 104 more pounds by the end of the year. Take the mindset that you are the tortoise, not the hare. Slow and steady wins the race, especially when it comes to the career of a recreational athlete. Now, don't get me wrong, professional athletes at the highest level of sport need to take more risks. Sometimes you have to push the boundaries to win. So if you happen to be LeBron James and you are watching this video, you're excused from pushing it a little harder than most. Habit number 3 is becoming victim of what I call shiny object syndrome. What are shiny objects to athletes? Complex and fancy-looking skills are shiny objects. They lure us in with their breathtaking feats of strength, acrobatics, and skill, and they tempt us to pursue them before we are ready. This is a massive trap. Those that chase complex skills before they've mastered the basics have fallen prey to shiny object syndrome. They want to do press handstands before they've gotten a basic handstand. They want to do a full speed snatch before they have the technique or mobility to do a simple overhead squat. In a broad athletic sense, what are these basics, these fundamentals that we should master? They are squatting, deadlifting, lunging, pushing and pulling, like push-ups and pull-ups, jumping and landing, running, twisting and rotating, balancing, and posture, joint, and spinal awareness in all of the above movements. These patterns are the building blocks to larger, more complex movements, but most people rush through them, which is unwise. A better model is the Chinese weightlifting team. They are known for not allowing their young athletes to use anything more than a broomstick for over a year, while developing a broad base of fundamental skills and athleticism. In contrast, in America, we have beginners going for snatch PRs in their first week. Do you see any potential problem with that? The moral of the story is walk before you run. Don't chase the fancy skills before you've mastered the basics. Habit number 4 is training too much. Athletes who take the more is better approach to everything run the risk of eventually blowing up. Training is a constant balance between stress and recovery. If this equation is unbalanced, burnout and breakdown soon follow. The old saying that you don't get stronger in the gym is very true. You get stronger when you completely off switch, relax and recover, and therefore prioritize your recovery. If you get good at this relax and recover side of the equation, you'll be much more durable and healthy and happy in the long run. A cool story I once heard from famous coach Pavel Tsatsouline, the evil Russian, was when he told a story about a powerlifter who would get hyped up, walk out on the platform and deadlift 850 pounds or something similarly insane, and then he'd go take a nap before his next lift. Can you imagine the amount of control that this athlete had over his nervous system? The ability to turn on and off the switch of down-regulating and relaxing, or getting hyped up and lifting an insane amount of weight? The ability to switch on and off is one of the most valuable life skills that an athlete can develop. The take-home message: train hard, but recover harder. Habit number 5 is actually training too little. Because the opposite of training too much, training too little, is also a risk for your body. This is when an athlete gets too afraid of overstressing their body. They make the error of treating their bodies like fragile babies. Instead of lifting weights and running races, this athlete avoids physical stress entirely. Often this happens after a series of injuries. The athlete takes up yoga and thinks they're protecting themselves from injury, when in fact they might be predisposing themselves to it. Yoga is great, but many super flexible yogis become useless when it's time to pick up a heavy box and move it somewhere. Don't get me wrong, yoga, breathing, meditation, down-regulating, that's all fantastic stuff. However, it will not prepare you for all of the things that life might throw at you. To better safeguard against injury, my yogi friends would be wise to incorporate a little resistance training into their routines. And for the rest of you, try to find that sweet spot between training too much and training too little. Habit number 6 of often injured athletes is not getting or not investing in one-on-one coaching. Getting personal one-on-one coaching from a great teacher may be expensive, but I view it as essential. To be clear, I'm not talking about having a personal fitness coach for the rest of your life. I'm talking about doing it for a concentrated period of time, a couple months, couple years at most, so that you can develop the foundational skills that only a one-on-one coach can provide. This person can correct your tiniest errors and get you on the right track. An early investment in great coaching can save you thousands in medical bills down the road. In my own life, I've spent several years and thousands of dollars being personally coached and mentored by some world-class coaches. My areas of study have ranged from track and field, strongman, Olympic weightlifting, yoga, massage, mobility, flexibility. My teachers include some names you've probably heard of, like Ido Portal, and possibly many you haven't heard of, like Carl Valley, Matt Gardner, Phil Pedichenko, and more. The point is, one-on-one coaching and great mentorship is one of the fastest ways to accelerate your results in fitness and in sport. Habit number 7 of often injured athletes is never caring about mobility work until it's too late. Let's imagine that your body is a sports car. If strength training and cardio are racing the car, then mobility work is tuning up the car. Athletes that race the car but never tune up the car are headed for a breakdown, period. So why does it take so long for people to get turned on to taking care of their own body? For me, it basically comes down to that we human beings are slow, not stupid, but slow. A teacher once told me, as I was in his office complaining about my injuries and my pains, he said, people don't care about mobility and flexibility until they're in enough pain. Pain is the thing that finally pushes people over the edge to being like, I should probably take care of my body a little bit better. And I'm as guilty as anyone about this. It took a traumatic back injury in 2011 to wake me up and make me start caring about this mobility and flexibility stuff. The take-home message is this. If you want to be in the top 1% of athletes, start caring about flexibility and mobility now. So now we know the 7 habits of often injured athletes, but what would be the opposite? What are the 7 habits of the perfect athlete? If ego, short-sightedness, imbalanced training define the always injured athlete, what defines this perfect athlete? Based on our 7 principles, the perfect athlete would then be Someone who is humble, takes the long view, masters the basics, doesn't train too much, doesn't train too little, gets one-on-one coaching, and takes mobility and self-care seriously. If you want to be this type of athlete, check out our free products and our paid programs, and check out our one-on-one coaching. Enjoy the journey.